Hey, what's going on, everyone? I'm Vinny Costa, editor of Street Muscle Magazine and your host of the RodCAST, the all-encompassing car show where we talk about all things automotive. Today, I'm joined by my co-host, Greg Acosta, editor of Engine Labs and the all-around tech guru. What's up, Greg?
Hey, Vinny, how you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm fantastic. Today is like one of our first days back at work after a long holiday break, which was really nice. And I know, just like me, you're eager to get back into the swing of things and start recording episodes. So,
yeah.
Thanks for being here, man.
Oh, no problem, man. It was a good break. I mean, I don't know what you did, but personally, I wasted a lot of time. It was cold, so I wasn't as productive as I wanted to be, but I did get a lot of shop time in.
I went on a few adventures. I grew a mustache. Got a haircut finally. So I took off, visited some family I hadn't seen all year long, and spent some time with them. That was really cool. I actually didn't do any car stuff, man, other than drive my pickup truck to go visit family. And then my girlfriend and I, we went up to the Grand Canyon. I'd never been there. I was really excited to see it, so that was awesome. Did a little bit of traveling, and then came back home. Camping was fun.
Well, you got the rare privilege of seeing the Grand Canyon under snow.
Yeah, man, it was wild. I was out in your neck of the woods, and you always tell me like how cold it gets where you're at. You're in Prescott, which is not too far from the Grand Canyon. It's what, maybe 2-3 hours?
Yeah, 2.5-ish.
And you're always talking about how cold it gets, and I said, dude, you live in Arizona. How cold could it get? And I'm eating those words now, dude. We first camped at the base of the Superstition Mountains, which was fantastic. And I have a rooftop tent on my pickup truck, and it's a nice, really nice tent. It's made by Smittybuilt, and it got to about 30 degrees when we were camping out there. And I mean, we weren't dying, but it was pretty cold. And then when we got up to the Grand Canyon, it was like 15 degrees, and it was snowing pretty heavily. So there was no way we were camping in that tent, at least not that night. Our sleeping bags only went to like 20 degrees. So we actually got a hotel room. All my overlanding people are just cringing. They're like, "What? Why do you even have a rooftop tent? You faker." But it was a great trip nonetheless. Got to see down in the canyon. The sun came out and actually cleared everything. And we were actually able to get some really fantastic photos while we were there. But anyways, the people aren't here to listen to me talk about the Grand Canyon, even though I thought it was pretty cool. They always say that photos don't do it justice, and I was like, yeah, all right. But it's true.
It is.
I
remember my very first time there. We were walking, because I think you were on South Rim, right? And that's where I was the first time.
Yeah, the North Rim's closed right now.
Okay. And there's a point where you're walking, and there's rails everywhere. If you guys haven't been, you should go. It's amazing.
Definitely.
But you just kind of look over, and at one point there's a little mining setup down at the bottom of the canyon, and your brain doesn't process what it is because it doesn't look to the proper scale because it's so far away.
Yes.
And then you start to get kind of vertigo, or at least I did. And it's like, as your brain is processing what it's seeing, and it's almost like how they talk about how the Native Americans couldn't see the ships of Columbus because they just couldn't process what they were.
Right, yeah.
And it's the same thing. You look down there, your brain isn't processing, things start to go crazy, and yeah, it's cool.
It's incredible, man. Like you said, I had the rare privilege of seeing it like covered in snow, which was really cool, because all the photos you see, it's rare that they have snow. So it was an interesting experience. And if for nothing else, it's a great road trip. So when the weather gets better, we can circle back that way. We can bring it back to cars. If you haven't been, if you haven't seen it, or even if you have, take that road trip, man, because it's fun.
Yes. Yeah, it's a fun.
Anyways, that's what I do with my break, Greg. It sounds like you got a lot of stuff done on a few projects. A project which we're going to reveal today. I'm really excited about. We won't get there just yet, but I know you're super anxious because you've been sitting on this thing for like forever.
Yeah, I actually went back and looked. It's really only been about 2.5 months. It feels like I've been sitting on it for 3 years.
Really?
Yeah, it's only been about 2.5 months. I went back to check my dates.
Okay, so it's 2.5 months since you got it, though.
Yeah, yes.
But it was in the works for a lot longer than that.
Yeah, legitimately about 2 years.
Yeah. I think people are going to be really excited about it. In fact, I think they're going to be excited about it based on the popularity of several of the articles that ran on Street Muscle last year, which is something that I wanted to talk about. We didn't address that in our last episode because we talked about the episode recap for the RodCAST. But the other part of what we do is the main part of what we do is run these magazines, right?
Yep.
And so I wanted to go over the top 5 articles that ran last year. And if these are any indicator, I think your project's going to do just as well on Engine Labs and Street Muscle. You know, we share content across platforms. And so when you run a really successful article on your magazine, it goes on mine as well. And, you know, for some reason, Greg, you have a knack for like publishing stuff that just does amazing on Street Muscle as well as Engine Labs.
Now I'll tell you my secret. I just write about what I like.
Yeah,
I mean,
man.
It's that simple. It's just like, if I like it, I write about it.
That's cool, man. You know, it comes through in your writing. You know, if you weren't excited about it, I don't think your audience or your readers would be either. It would just kind of read probably like a textbook, but you can spin a yarn. So I guess let's get right into it. And we'll talk about some of the articles that ran this last year on Street Muscle. The first one that did the best and was published last year, because I guess I should mention that, right? So not all of the articles that did the best last year were published last year. We're only talking about the articles that were published last year. So it was actually one of yours called Synthetic Motor Oil and Older Engines, Old Wives' Tales Debunked. Greg, can you tell us a little bit about that article?
That was actually one that it was based on a Jason Fenske of Engineering Explained video. He was basically going through and talking about some of the old wives' tales and why people, you know, felt that synthetic hurt older engines. And really what it boils down to, just real simple, you can read the article, is back in the day, the chemical engineering technology of the seals and the oil weren't compatible. Nowadays, it's fine. So, yeah, I mean, if anybody's running a 50-year-old seal, well, of course that's going to leak, right? Mm. But if you've got modern seals in your engine, be it old or new, you're going to be fine.
Okay, so I want to preface this by saying we're going to drop the links to all these articles in the comment section below. So if you guys are curious, you want to check them out, do us a favor, click on them, read them, let us know what you think. Let us know if you consider that to be a wives' tale or if it's the truth. Obviously, Greg's done some in-depth research, as well as, I'm sorry, who did you say published that video?
Jason Fenske. Oh, and I know people in the comments are going to, because I mean, when this posted, I mean, I don't care how many letters these engineers have after their names. There are people who are posting their experiences and they're different. I can't explain it.
Okay. So there are a lot of quote unquote myths or wives' tales surrounding motor oil, right? Like one of the ones that I was always told, and you can tell me if this is true or not, Greg. If you have an engine that runs on conventional oil and you switch to synthetic, you can no longer go back to running conventional oil. You have to stay with synthetic oil. Is that true?
No. No.
Okay.
Yeah, there's nothing. It's not like it converts the molecules of something. No, I mean, it's fine. Again, that all comes down to your seals. It's with modern seal technology, it's a non-issue. Modern chemistry and oils, it's a non-issue. Whether back in the day, it was something like you put synthetic oil, it ate away the seal, and then even if you put conventional back in, it still leaked. I'm not sure. I wasn't alive back then. So, I mean, honestly, a lot of this stuff, it sounds crazy today, but it comes from a place of real happenings and honest truth.
I know, several really old cars and especially old motorcycles, they didn't have like a drain plug or anything like that. They just, in the owner's manual, it called for add oil every so often, right? And it would leak out. So maybe it's coming from somewhere like that far back and people have just carried it over and, yeah, my grandpa's grandpa used this oil and, whatever.
Well, one thing that Lake Speed, I'm not sure if you know Lake. He used
Dude,
to, yeah.
great guy.
One thing he always preaches is that there is so much personal belief in oil, and the first thing he always tries to tell you is, I don't care what your brand is. That's cool. You use your brand. I'm not bad talking your brand, but chemistry has to follow application. And too many people will, right off the bat be like, well, my granddad used Amsoil 2050, and that's what I'm going to use in my brand new car. No, stop
Yeah.
that.
I understand brand loyalty, but like you have to know what goes in, there's a philosophy of use that you need to follow, right?
Yeah. Oh, and oil is so brainiac. I mean, Lake can be speaking, and I can just feel my ear, dripping my brain out.
Yeah, it's like in high school science class when the teacher starts talking molecules and stuff, and you just see people's eyes glaze over, like, yeah, just give me the bottle, thank you.
Yeah. But and I mean, honestly, I don't feel like the oil companies are helping this, because they're constantly changing, and advancing and all that stuff. So it's almost like people don't have time to learn the new stuff before something new is in their face.
I'd bet that they probably somehow use that to their advantage,
Yeah.
Can't really speculate on how, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Well, that was a really successful article, Greg. It was actually in the top 3 of the overall best articles run on Street Muscle last year. So kudos to you, man. That was really cool.
Well, kudos to Jason Fensky. He did all the heavy lifting, that when he made the video. And that dude is smart. I mean, I love his videos.
Well, a big part of what we do is hunting down those stories, right? So like he did the research, and that's fantastic. Like you said, kudos to him, man. That's awesome. But you got to know what's a hot button. Like you got your finger on the pulse of what's hot, and so you knew that was going to be a good one. And so good on you, man, for publishing that and getting it out there.
Thank you.
The next top story that we had last year was Metallica frontman James Hetfield donates epic car collection. And that one was really fun. I actually wrote that one. And just like the title says, he worked with the Peterson Automotive Museum to store a really beautiful collection of cars that he's had built over the years. I mean, a collection featuring multiple cars built by Rick Dorr. I mean, these things are works of art. They're almost not even automobiles anymore. They are in the sense that they run and drive, but when you look at them, they're giant sculptures. They're gorgeous. And so, obviously his name carries a lot of weight. James Hetfield, he's the frontman for possibly the biggest rock band of all time, certainly the biggest metal band of all time.
Yeah.
And so it was really cool. They actually published a video, the Peterson Museum did, of this curated collection that he worked with them to put together. And it went on tour, I believe. It was traveling, and you could have checked it out, obviously before everything was shut down. But I believe they're still there, and once everything opens back up, you'll be able to go check them out. But for right now, you can go to the Peterson Automotive Museum website, and you can see them there virtually, which is really cool. But yeah, I had a lot of fun writing.
One thing I gotta wonder, honestly, what does it feel like to give away that stuff? Because that's not just money. I don't even care how much it's worth. Those are your babies. If you're a collector, like, I know they're going to a good spot, but how hard is that? Like,
Hetfield is a real gearhead. Seriously, that's something that I found out while I was researching that. I'm a huge Metallica fan, and obviously I love their music, but I didn't realize that he was such a gearhead. He loves cars, and specifically hot rods, right? Early hot rods. And but like full custom, and he's really involved in the design process. And I think he even wrenches on some of his own cars, which is cool. But to answer your question, I'm not sure, man. A lot of people in the comment section when I wrote that article were talking a little bit of mess on him, saying like, oh, well, it's just a tax write-off for him and this and that. And it's like, it's possible for a person to do something philanthropic without, the primary motive being financial. I think he's just a car guy, and he wanted to donate some really beautiful pieces of his collection to the museum. And I believe we actually, when we spoke to Dan Kahn, the way that he explained it, because they work with the Peterson Museum, was that they're still his somehow, but the museum also has ownership of them, and it's kind of weird. Honestly, I think he was just making room in his garage to build some more.
Either way, I mean, it takes a lot to send off a whole bunch of anything you love, you know?
Yeah, man. But you know, I would feel that pain though. Like, at what point, you know, like you always want more, right? So if your garage is getting kind of full, like, well, hey, you know, I'm not driving these ones. It'd be cool for people to check them out. Maybe I can fill up my garage with more.
Yeah.
But anyways, then the third most popular article last year was Rob's Movie Muscle article, The Last Stand, Corvette ZR1 and Camaro ZL1, which was really cool. I'm a huge Arnold Schwarzenegger fan, so when that movie came out, I want to say it was like 2011, or no, you know what? I think it was 2009 because it came out and it was like a big product placement for the new ZR1. They were talking about like the specs of the car and the movie, like it can go over 200 miles an hour and like all this stuff, right? The villain actually drove the ZR1. And then Arnold at the end is like has this epic chase scene, and he's driving a Camaro ZL1 in like torch red or something, and they're driving through these cornfields, and Arnold's like smoking a stogie, and he's chasing this dude. It was awesome. It was a great movie, and so I asked Rob to kind of do his thing and not critique the movie, but find out what went into curating those cars for that movie. So that article did really well.
That's cool. And I mean, that's about the time that we were seeing a lot of movie placement from GM, right? Because Transformers.
Yep. So 2007, they do Transformers, right?
Yeah, and they made Barricade a Mustang.
Mm-hmm.
It hurt a little bit to see the Mustang be the bad guy, but
yeah.
Done a Mopar, like, come on. But
for some reason, Mopar, like, just, you know, Mopars in general kind of feel villainous, right? I think we've been like brainwashed into thinking that. I mean, you got Bullet, right? The hero drives a Mustang. He's being chased, or he's chasing big, menacing black Charger. There are some hero Mopars too, though, like Vanishing Point and Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry, Dukes of Hazzard. But
you didn't say the number one hero Mopar. Nash Bridges.
Oh, Nash Bridges, yeah, for sure.
How dare you?
But those other three that I mentioned were actually, like, they're heroes, but they're also kind of like anti-heroes, right? I mean, you're talking about a group of bank robbers. You're talking about some bootleggers and a drug mule in Vanishing Point. So, I mean, I'm just saying, they carry some kind of villainous weight. And then you remember that movie Drive? Did you ever see that one with Ryan Gosling?
No.
Well,
No,
it was reminiscent of Bullet in some ways. It was like came out in 2012, and he was driving a new 5.0 at that time, and he was being chased by a Chrysler 300. And the chase scene was very, like I said, reminiscent of Bullet. Anyways, I forgot how we got on that topic. Oh, you were mentioning the product placement for GM at the time. Yeah, so you had Transformers, and you had this movie in 2009, just two years later. I'm sure there are others, but it's weird how manufacturers do that, right?
Yeah. I mean, I wonder, I would love, I don't think there'd even be a way to ever know, but how many people bought yellow Camaros with black stripes because of Bumblebee?
Well, they did that. They did the Transformers edition. Have you ever seen those?
Was that an actual GM edition?
Yeah, they did a Transformers edition. It has like Autobots emblem on the fender, or like badges on the fenders, and I think the interior has some design cues, and obviously it's yellow with black stripes.
But doesn't transform.
Yeah. But now that I'm thinking about it, Dodge has done a bunch recently. I think all the latest Fast and the Furious movies all have like product placement for Dodge.
That would make sense. Well, yeah, because their commercials have Vin Diesel in them.
Mm-hmm. Which is really cool. And I don't think that was by design, because back in 2000 they weren't thinking about that when they had the Charger in the first one, which was really cool.
Well, even before the Charger, there was the Viper. Remember at Race Wars?
Viper?
The guy that races Letty and like bets her.
Oh yeah, that big like wad of cash.
Yeah, because that's a Viper.
Oh yeah, but I mean like the hero car, right? Like the hero car was that Charger.
Yeah.
And that Supra, but I'm not a huge Mark IV Supra guy.
Would I take one? Of course, because they're worth a ton of money now.
Well,
Would
yeah.
I spend the money they're commanding right now on one? Absolutely not.
I always liked Dominic's RX-7 more. That red one.
Oh, I have a soft spot for an RX-7, but
FDs are really cool, man.
Yeah,
but we're getting off topic here a little bit. All right, so then the next article that did really well. People seem to love this one. I'm gonna have to revisit this with Rob. Rob people love his stuff, man. This one was called Mopar's Most Mean: The Top 10 Most Powerful Chrysler Street Engines. I won't go into too much depth. I'll read the list for you guys, but you guys can go back and check out the list yourself and see if you agree or disagree. But number 10 was the 383 6.3 liter V8, obviously. And then number 9 was a 440 7.2 liter V8. The number 8 was the 345 cubic inch 5.7 liter Hemi, which we all know has been in millions of Dodges. And then number 7 was the 413 6.8 liter Max Wedge V8. I know that you guys love those. Number 6 was the 426 Max Wedge V8. That's a big old 7 liter. And then you got number 5, which is the 426 Hemi of legend status. Then number 4, you had the 372 cubic inch 6.1 liter Hemi V8, which is in the modern stuff. And then you got the 392 6.4 liter Hemi, which is again in the modern stuff. And then this one's really cool. It's the the 488, 505, and 512.5 cubic inch 8 liter, 8.3 liter, and 8.4 liter out of what, Greg?
Oh crap, I don't know.
This is a V10, my friend. Came out of the Viper. So those were all options for the Viper. Really cool. Go read about that one, you guys. Also the Dodge Ram trucks. And then...
Wasn't there a motorcycle that had the Tomahawk?
I don't know. We might have to hunt that one up, Greg. And then number 1 was a 376 6.2 liter supercharged Hemi V8. Yes, that is the same engine that's in the Jeep Trackhawk, the Dodge Hellcat, etc.
The one that's in anything that will fit it?
Yep. And I would say that's a fitting number 1 for today, if we're not talking about the Hellefant, because I think at the time that Rob wrote this, that wasn't currently available from Dodge yet. So yeah, go check that one out. Rob has a knack for hunting up really cool specs on stuff that I didn't even know. I find out new information while I'm editing, and I'm like, wow. Sometimes I have to call him. I'm like, Rob, is this true? Where'd you read this? Where'd you find this out? How are you doing your research? But trust me, he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about. So read the list. Let us know in the comment section below whether or not you agree with him. And there you go. That was number 3, Greg?
Yes.
Okay. Number 4. Oh, this one was fun. Remember when we talked to the guys at Diablo Sport early on in the show? This one was called Cracking the Hellcat Code, How the Diablo Sport Red Eye Runs Nines. This is an article I wrote, and it was a lot of fun to put together. We talked to Matt and the crew over at Diablo Sport, and really, they didn't do a whole lot to that car to get it to run 9 seconds, man.
That's the scary thing, is all that potential is really in the ECU.
Yeah, man. I mean, they changed the pulley. They obviously did a tune, and they put some slicks and skinnies on it, and they got the thing to run 9s. Incredible, man.
Yeah.
It blows my mind. I think we spent most of that episode talking about not only like the recipe that they had put together, but just the fact that, I mean, these cars are capable of that now, right? With
Yeah, it's
minimal
terrifying.
modifications.
Like, I mean, think about it. What was a quick car back just when you were a kid?
14 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, I remember a 13-second car being like, okay, that'll hang.
Well, dude, I mean, V8 American muscle cars, sports cars, pony cars, whatever you want to call them, from the early 2000s, 14 seconds was pretty quick. You know, that's you're running that from the factory. A bone stock Mustang GT in the year 2000, 14 seconds.
I mean,
Um,
there's a reason there's a 14-second class in most true streets.
you know what I mean? So for a lightly modified car to run 9 seconds nowadays is insane.
Yeah,
And they do it like so. I don't want to say effortlessly, but
gracefully.
yeah, like it's not violent, it's not scary, it's not. Well, I mean, it's not scary for me or probably you, or you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Um, but it's a different experience than driving an old jalopy that fast.
yeah, because you're not losing bolts down the track.
Yeah, you're not rattling your teeth out of your head. But yeah, that was a really great article, and it was a great episode. We actually need to revisit that one, and we need to talk to those guys and see about having them on again because that was really fun.
Yeah.
All right, and the fifth and final most popular article. Wait, was that five? One, two,
Was it? No, that
three,
was 4.
four, five. No, that was five.
Oh,
Sorry, we got
then
our
an
numbers.
honorable mention.
Yeah. And, honorable mention, I'm sure, is probably one of yours. um, no, these are all old. I would have to hunt up one that was published in 2019. I'd have to go
Okay.
through the whole list. But that was number five. So, like I said, we'll drop the links to all those articles in the comment section below. Give them a read. Let us know whether or not you agree with the opinionated versions of those articles or not. And yeah, well, I should take a moment to say, please hit that like, comment, and subscribe button and ring that bell for notifications. It would help us out a lot. We'd really appreciate it. We want to keep doing this show for a long time. We want to keep the content coming, and that's a huge help. So thank you. Greg,
Yes.
it's come time to reveal the most epic. No,
Oh, I wouldn't go that far.
it's come time to reveal your project, man. I'm really excited about it. I'm joking because there's been such a buildup, and now we finally get to reveal it. So lay it on me, man. What is going on? What's this thing that you've been hiding?
All right. Well, I mean, it's an LS because you guys could all see that in the shop over the past, couple months. But this actually dropped on Engine Labs. It should have been yesterday morning by the time you see this. It's the LS 5.0. I'm sure you guys have seen the LS versus Coyote. We did the budget shootout, which was naturally aspirated, and then the supercharged shootout. And in both of those, the LS was much, much larger than the Coyote. I brought it up back then that let's make them the same size.
Did anybody bring it up in the comment section?
Oh, dude.
I know they were pretty, like the comment section was out of control during that stuff. So,
I mean, if
what
you
were
think
people
about
saying?
it, well, in the very first one, the LS3 was, 1.2 liters larger than the Coyote. That's like 22, 24%, something like that.
Wait, but how come the engine is so much smaller than the Coyote?
I mean, what do you mean? The Coyote's a small one.
In displacement, but like actual size?
Oh, because it's got dual overhead cams. I mean, those things add what, like
I'm just
5 inches?
Yeah, I'm just ribbing you, man.
But yeah, so I mean, the biggest complaint was they're nowhere near the same displacement, and it's true. And part of the LS's charm, if you want to call it that, is that for very little money, you can get a lot of cubes out of it. I mean, it's nothing to get a 4-inch stroke crank, from Summit or, your local swap meet even. You can put a giant bore in them, and, well, not giant, but, you can make some big, displacement. But that's not really fair. Of course, all the Ford guys said as much. and got called whiners for it. And they're like, but we take the horsepower per liter. Yes, they do.
Well, if Ford made a bigger engine in the Mustang, you guys would have tested that.
Exactly. But part of the thing is, you get into it, a smaller engine is more efficient than a bigger engine. That's just how it works.
That's why they don't make big blocks in those cars anymore.
Yeah. So part of the question is the 5-liter more efficient because of the dual overhead cams, or is it more efficient because it's smaller? Well, I mean, from day one with the Coyote versus or LS versus Coyote shootout, I was saying, let's build a 5-liter Coyote. And I was told, you're crazy. You're insane.
You mean a 5-liter LS?
Yeah, 5-liter LS. Sorry. So for 2 years, I have been talking about this. I wrote an article where I modeled it in DynoSim with Comp.
Oh, how'd you do that?
Well, Comp has this DynoSim software, which a lot of people are kind of iffy about because it's like, oh, how accurate can it be? But I actually spent it was probably 2 weeks working with it and talking to Billy Godbold, and we were going back and forth with it.
What kind of
we got this dialed in.
What kind of parameters are in the software where you can adjust
everything. I mean, you literally you tell it intake port volume. You tell it you can actually plug in your actual flow sheet of the head, valve sizes. It models all that. I mean, the combustion chamber shape. You can model ignition timing. You can model. I mean, just everything.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we got it dialed in on known engines, and then I built this engine in the software to see what it would do. And surprisingly, it kind of hung with the Coyote. I mean, the Coyote still edged it out. But after that, I said flat out, I'm going to build this engine one day.
Well, so how do you accomplish that? How do you get what was your recipe that you were using?
That's the thing is one of the things I got told when I suggested a 5-liter Coyote was that it would take, 5-liter LS. It would take exotic parts to do.
Exotic how? Like custom?
Billet crank. Yeah.
Okay.
Like a 3-inch stroke crank and all this stuff. And no, it doesn't. You take a 4.8 liter, you bore it out to slightly under 5.7, an LS1 bore. So it's 3.898.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 3.858, from 898. And you have 5 liters. So you need a custom piston. That's
okay.
That's the only the rod we haven't settled on the rod design yet, but the rod it's not custom, but not the standard 6125, maybe.
So run us down the build so far, where you're at with the project. And I know that you just mentioned that several of the parts are not 100% yet, but your game plan, if you will.
Okay, so I completely tore down the LS that you guys all saw.
Wait, you should mention, where'd you get that 4.8? Because I know you were hunting for one for a while and you couldn't get your hands on one for a reason.
I actually mentioned that in the article. That actually came from Reviva and Pilot Engines. They had one in stock because we couldn't find an LY, because an LY2 is a Gen 4 4.8 that it ticked all the boxes. I was very specific in what I wanted to start with. And they were able to get me one. So luckily that has good heads. The crank was good. I didn't need the rods, but the rods are good.
I know that when you opened it up, and we should also mention that you got that from Reviva, but it wasn't like a remanufactured, it wasn't rebuilt or anything. It was straight pulled out of a fleet vehicle, some kind of fleet vehicle, and given to you.
It was it was a core engine that hadn't started their remanufacturing process yet.
Right.
So
when you opened it up, you had you ran into not some issues, but some interesting stuff where you had to do a little bit of detective work.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to verify some stuff, and I found that it had been bored 6 thou over at one point. But that's all it had been. It had new bearings in it. I should say it had new main and rod bearings.
Didn't one of the cylinders have a bunch of rust in there?
There was, but it's very shallow. That I don't know where it could have come from. It could have come from water, being jostled during transport. I know it didn't come from when the heads came off because no water came out.
Yeah, but it was just surface.
Yeah,
rust.
but it was a really odd pattern. That's the weird thing is it wasn't like the whole cylinder had crud on it.
Okay.
But it was just one little section, which leads me to believe that maybe during shipping, it wasn't perfectly straight up. I don't know, something goofy, but it's not going to hurt anything because it's not deep enough.
I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you, Greg. You're running down the game plan for the build, so I'll let you just do that.
So right now, next week, it'll be going to the machine shop and getting its bore. And we're also doing something that a lot of junkyard LSs don't get. And that is it's getting the full race prep. So and by race prep, I don't necessarily mean we're not bushing the lifter bores or anything. We're just going through, we're checking everything, we're correcting everything. I've got to align bore it because we're putting ARP main studs in it. We obviously have to open up the bores 76 thousandths. We are checking the lifter bores just to make sure there's nothing wrong there. And then he's going through and basically just cleaning everything up, and that's going down at Beck Racing Engines down in Phoenix. So I've got a nice little drive next week.
Nice.
What
kind of parts are going on this thing?
Say what?
I said, what kind of parts are going on this thing?
Well, right now we're looking at obviously a custom piston because of the bore. There is no 3.858 inch LS piston out there. So it's going to be a custom piston. With a custom piston, we're not locked into any one compression height. Now, one thing that's actually out on the internet that I found out when I tore this down, the 4.8 liters come with the 6.275 inch rod in the Gen 3s, but on the Gen 4s, they were listed at the standard 6.096. That's not true. These actually have Gen 4 6.275 inch rods.
Interesting.
So I could run those rods because they're in great condition. They're Gen 4 rods, bushed ends that are great rods. I could run those rods and use pretty much an off-the-shelf 5.3 liter compression height because that's why GM did it.
Interesting.
Or I can go with a much longer rod since we're doing a custom piston anyway and make a really short piston.
Yeah.
But then we get into the whole heavy, longer rod, shorter, lighter piston versus shorter, lighter rod, heavier, taller piston. So that's actually going to be an article in and of itself where we get some expert opinions because I have my gut feeling, but I have a feeling my gut is wrong.
You could always get a set of both.
That would be ideal.
Testing.
That's a lot of dyno time.
Yeah, but the people want to know, Greg.
Yeah.
The people want to know. What about the top end, man? I bet that cam card's going to look pretty crazy.
Well, that's the thing. I've been talking to Billy. We obviously modeled some cams in that software, but that was done pre-LST, the low shock technology, which we talked about.
Oh, interesting.
One thing I did, and I found out real quick, the software, the version I have, does not properly model low shock technology. So I talked to Billy already, and he was like, yeah, you might actually have to test different cams on the dyno. Like, we may not be able to tell you the perfect cam right out of the bat.
What kind of percent increase can you expect over a conventional cam setup?
If we go by the stuff Jeff Smith's done, he was seeing 14, 15 horsepower with the same grind.
That's what Billy was saying. That I think the example that he was talking about, he was like, yeah, we picked up 12 horsepower right away, like right off the bat. And I was like, geez, dude, that's pretty crazy. So
and the cool thing is this engine, it's going to turn. It's got to turn. Flat out. The Coyote we tested in the original Coyote versus LS shootout, which is the baseline I'll be competing against, even though it's not really a competition.
Do you remember offhand what kind of numbers those things put up?
It was 513 horsepower at, I want to say it was at like 7,800 RPM, and it spun to like 82. They spun that engine hard. So that's kind of where I'm not necessarily shooting for that, but it's going to be a much higher RPM LS than normal.
Okay.
Definitely not Spinal Tap level. But I mean,
what are you thinking? Like between 7 and 8, or?
oh yeah. I mean, if it peaked in the 7s, I think that'd be pretty good.
Okay.
Because again, for the heads, we're using the 799 heads.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. So you're using a factory head?
Yeah, because the Coyote used a factory head.
Okay.
Plus, with the smaller bore, there's no point in putting a bigger, like an LS3 head on it because the valves are too big.
Right.
Like, literally with the tiny
that
bore.
would end up throwing your whole formula off anyway.
Yeah, so it's going to be one of those things. We're going to be going to EFI University, home of Spinal Tap, obviously. And I'll be flowing the stock heads. And because Ben is, a math genius, he'll be able to look at it and tell me right away whether or not I should even try them unported or port them. Because the information I found online of the stock flow seems a little optimistic. But if I actually get that stock flow, I think I can try to run unported heads.
What oh man, when you're there, you're gonna have to get a picture of that thing next to Spinal Tap.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But that's really,
that's gonna happen.
yeah.
But,
you got to put some pressure on Jeff Smith. Get him to revisit that, dude. All of them, everybody who was involved, him, Billy, and Ben.
Well, I know Ben has been working on some stuff. He actually built a new 10,000 RPM LS for the school, like for class.
Nice.
So he's working on some different stuff as far as high RPM. I mean, he is the high priest of high RPM. So
do you think that LST will start to make it into OEM stuff?
That's a really good question. I would love for it to, but then again, I don't think like an OEM does.
Well, think of the efficiency, man.
Yeah, you could make the argument that it's durable and it reduces valve train breakage, but that's the thing. Our LT engines, because I mean LS engines, they don't care about it anymore. They stopped making them.
Right.
Are LT engines breaking valve train? I don't think they are.
Well, are they pushing them as hard as they could?
Well, does the OEM care if you're pushing it? They'll just deny warranty. I mean, I'm not speaking.
Well, okay.
I'm playing devil's advocate for a minute.
No, I hear you, but I'm thinking, if you ask me, does GM, and you're talking about the LT, I would say, yeah, probably not. If you ask me about Dodge and all their Hemi stuff, I think they do care about that.
Well, we actually have some videos going up on Engine Labs of the low shock technology, their HRT for Dodge stuff. So the technology is universal. It's basically you're treating your valves better. It doesn't care what brand they are.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Dodge seems to be a brand that kind of follows suit with what its consumers are doing, right? And their customers are like horsepower addicts, man. They buy, like, even guys who buy Hellcats and Demons, like, they're modifying them, and you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I mean, will we see that? I mean, I feel like, and I'm sure Billy will tell me if I'm wrong, LST is much less of a product and much more of a way of thinking, a way of designing a cam. It's not actually like, look, we designed this widget and it makes it more. It's just a way of looking at the valve and treating the valve openings, and they can speed it up here and slow it down here, and it's the technology is knowledge more than some new spring.
I hear you.
So I mean, will it trickle into OEMs? I hope so.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool. I mean, anything that makes a more efficient and a more powerful engine, I'm all for it, man.
I mean, for all we know, it's already there.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, we're over here speculating, and engineers are, much smarter than us, are probably designing stuff right now. Yeah, but it's interesting. It's interesting to think about. Yeah. But so, what are your plans with the engine? Right, like, so you're building it to, test something that you theorized before. which is really cool. But I know like it's going to be a dyno mule, right? You've mentioned that to me before.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, once we get what we can get out of it, I mean, the first step, I want to see what it'll do. And I think we can do it under the budget, of the original competition. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised. It
Even
may
with
not. It may not beat the Coyote. There's a real possibility it may not. But I think it's going to hold its own to the point where everybody goes, oh, and starts to scratch their heads, because maybe it is the engine size, not the overhead cams that are so efficient. I don't know, because the Coyote heads are amazing, like that. They flow like crazy. So
it's the size of the engine, not the motion in the valve train, Greg.
but once we get that, then I want to stop going, okay, what if we played by these rules, and just throw the rule book out the window and saying, okay, what can we do? There is a company that makes a small valve LS3 head, which I would love to play with. I honestly don't know if it's right, because it's even the bore of the 5-liter LS will be smaller than their recommended minimum size. So I don't know if it'll work. I mean, maybe it will, maybe it won't. I would love to play with some camshaft and valve train stuff, and without buying crazy custom parts. Let's see how hard we can spin it. Let's see, if we can actually make power spinning it.
Well, so you got that going on, but you're also working on another dyno mule of the Ford variety too, right? So can we expect to see like these two ever pitted against each other, or they're just totally different?
Oh, they're going to be totally different. I mean, they're not even in the same, because this is going to be the Ford, the small block Ford, actually came out of a '93 Thunderbird.
Nice.
So not necessarily the greatest 5-liter Windsor example that ever rolled off the line.
Dude, did they use that same engine for the supercharged version of those 93? No, it was a different engine.
Yeah, because the supercharged, I think it was the supercharged V6, right? It was a 3800.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right.
I think it was. I don't know if that was the Essex 3800 or not. But no, the 93, they actually went to the cast pistons.
Oh.
So, because the 5-liter always had the forged piston, not 93. And guess what year I have? So,
perfect.
But no, that engine's probably going to be more of a throwback to the 90s during the Fox body craze, and kind of seeing what
you throw some like a trick flow intake on it and
stuff like that. Yeah. Okay. But see if all the numbers are the same with everything we know now.
Okay.
Will it get an LST cam? I don't know. Maybe. Like, why not? Let's test it.
That'd be cool.
But it's literally, it's not a project. It's not going in anything. That one is literally just a dyno mule to test things. And that's going to be fun, because, my roots are in Ford.
Could you see finding something like finding a home for that LS?
Maybe.
Hey, right on.
Maybe. But
I mean, you got a black Mustang sitting outside that I think needs.
Yeah, but I also have I actually have 2 other ideas for that. So
you'll have to lay those on.
I mean, I have way more ideas than I have cars.
Yeah, I hear you.
So I've already been told I'm only allowed to have 2 fun cars at once.
I think that's probably a good rule, man. I haven't subscribed to that myself, and sometimes I wish I had. But hey, man, can we take a quick break? Again, we're back. Sorry about that, Greg.
Oh, no worries. But one of the other reasons for the whole LS 5.0 thing, I mean, the LS, there's no arguing the LS is probably the most popular platform of the decade, right? I mean, you just can't argue.
Oh, 100%.
But that means everybody has built it every way from Sunday, right? I've never seen anyone build a 5-liter LS before. So I don't want to do something that everybody has already done. So it's a little different. And yes, I know it's goofy, and I'm sure everybody's going to say exactly, what I was told originally, which was nobody would do that. Well, I would, and I'm somebody, right? I'm a person. My opinion matters. Like, and I'm doing it. I'm finally doing it. But one of the things I want this to be, this whole project, is a learning / teaching experience. This isn't one of those, we're going to do magazine secret stuff and not tell you about it just to get numbers. If we do something different, we're going to tell you.
That was one of the criticisms of the original LS versus Coyote, right?
Yeah, the first one was, there was a lot of, why did you do that? And nobody ever answered.
Mm.
It's like one thing that, I mean, a lot of it was cost based for the very first one. There were a lot of like things that were cut in order to make budget. I'm not really going to worry about budget that much. If there's something that needs to be done, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to put factory head bolts in an 1800 horsepower engine to save the budget, which was actually ended up being really cool. We got to see where they failed. That was awesome. That was really cool. I'm not going to lie. Being in the dyno cell when that thing let go, I needed new underwear, but it was cool. But no, I mean, so if anybody's watching and reading and has a question, I read the comments. Like, I'm not going to hide anything with this engine.
Yeah.
Like, this project is an open book, and it's literally, let's try stuff. So if you ever thought, well, what if we did this crazy thing? Talk to me. Maybe we'll do it. I don't know. Maybe it'd be fun. Maybe you have some cool ideas. Like, what if we, wow, I'm not going to say this because now that I just had the thought, but it might be fun. But like, what if we put a DI piston pocket in a non-DI engine? What would happen? I'm not actually going to do that. That would be dumb. But I mean, I'm willing to do, stuff. Like, let's try it.
Yeah, I hear you, man. That's cool. Well, I mean, that's the reason that a lot of your articles do so well, because you get excited about the things that you're testing, and that carries through. And I mean, dude, the comment section on all your stuff is always like out of control. Even on the website, on your Facebook, the fan base for Engine Labs is like, they're wild, man. They're wild.
I mean, and one thing I got to say, I love our Facebook community. I mean, there are times where I'll post some random, look at this funny picture of a blown up engine, and it turns out we're two people, distant from the owner, or like some old assembly line pictures, and somebody's like, yeah, I worked on that line, like I built those engines.
Yeah, man.
It's really cool. I really like hearing that kind of stuff from our audience.
Well, they're really passionate about it. And so are you. So like I said, they connect with you, and that's totally cool, man. And just the fact that you're willing to test this stuff, just for fun, right? It's pretty cool.
And this, so hopefully we'll be talking about all the power this makes, not what a mess I made on the dyno. But I understand that's a possibility, and we're rolling the dice sometimes.
So you said next step, you're taking it to the machine shop.
Yep, next week I head down there and drop it off. And
so the article that dropped, I guess yesterday, is just outlining your idea and the impetus for the build.
Yeah, it's the intro. I mean, honestly, if you want to know what it's going to look like, there's in that article is linked to the one where I built it in DynoSim. That's pretty much the engine it's going to be. I mean, it's all laid out there. I'm not hiding anything. There's no secrets.
Okay. Well, for our viewers, listeners, readers at home, check out that article that is live right now on enginelabs.com. Also, check out powerautomedia.com, streetmusclemag.com, all the rest of the magazines under that Power Auto Media banner. Greg, as we wrap up here, is there anything else that's sticking out in your mind that you want to talk to the people about before we go?
Not much other than, we're rolling into the formative season, I guess, of our editorial planning. So again, if you guys want to see something, I'm not just talking about LS 5.0. I just mean on Engine Labs, on Street Muscle, whatever. Shoot us an email. Our emails are all over the website. Like, if you want to see something, let us know. Well,
and you can always drop it in the comment section below too. Also, give us ideas for potential guests. Let us know who you want to see on the show. Obviously, this episode was just me and Greg because we wanted to start the year off with an episode of just us. And of course, we'll have a great guest for you next week. But we're always building that catalog of people that we want to reach out to. So let us know who we need to reach out to. Let us know who you want to see on the show. Let us know what you want to know. And we'll try to get it done. Right, Greg?
Absolutely.
Cool, man. Well, I think I covered all the websites. Again, give us a like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification button so that you know when a new episode comes out. And as always, we'll see you next week at noon on Friday. Peace.